Hello and welcome back to another video. This time we're going to be talking a little bit about Warlords of Draenor, lore, and, well, the Burning Crusade, because I was looking at one of the recent alpha builds for Warlords of Draenor, and I found that there's a new faction being added. It's called the Sargerai. Now, what are the Sargerai? Well, they're a whole bunch of Draenei who are in service to the Shadow Council, which is pretty dickish when you consider that the Draenei are not usually the sort of folks to serve with the Shadow Council and their friends. This tells us a few different things, though. So, first of all, obviously, it tells us that Sargerai is completely knowing of what's going on. It tells you that he's involved, and it tells you that there is full Legion involvement with what is going on this planet. Previously, we weren't 100% sure. We knew Gul'dan was trying to summon in demons, and was perhaps involved with the Burning Legion, but I don't think we knew that he was fully, sort of taken, and that the Shadow Council was already formed, and that the Sargerai were there. And because Gul'dan is, I'm pretty sure, a part of the Iron Horde, albeit not a very trusted part of the Iron Horde, still though, I'm sure that because of that, there are going to be some sort of Warlocks or Burning Legion-ish stuff going on with the Iron Horde. Perhaps what will happen in the storyline is they'll be kicked out of the Iron Horde, and perhaps we might even have to deal with some of this stuff separately. But I thought that it was really quite interesting, and especially the way that they said that these Draenei were twisted in the service of the Shadow Council, and have sacrificed much in the pursuit of power, especially the Shadow Council. Now, the Shadow Council, if you don't know, were basically a whole group of orcs, who were the first warlocks back on Old Draenor, who were involved with, spreading the Burning Legion stuff, getting in the demon blood, all those various things. So, if the Shadow Council are there, and there's going to be more stuff for us to deal with than we previously thought. Because, you see, previously, I had just imagined that, Gul'dan was chipping away at the Legion, whatever, but the main problem was a giant army of really angry orcs with armor and weapons and axes that were going to kill us and hurt us. No, now we have demons involved. We certainly do have demons. And of course, looking through some of the old Draenor, well, the new old Draenor maps and mini-maps and things, you can see these little sort of splodges of fell corruption dotted around the place that certainly look Burning Legion-ish. And now just seeing that there is a sort of faction of Sargerai's followers just chilling out there is kind of interesting. And this definitely leads credence to the idea that we will see the Burning Legion in either this expansion or the next one. Honestly, if a faction is, devoted to the Burning Legion, then I'd say chances are we'll deal with them, and then the Legion will kind of come in maybe the mid-patch of the expansion, or maybe the final patch, or maybe the first, raid tier of the next expansion, which is pretty cool. Now, in terms of gameplay, these guys are rather similar to the... There was, back in the Burning Crusade, you had two different factions. There was the Draenei and the... I forgot what they were called, the people who followed Kil'jaeden. And that included some Draenei as well. And to level up, or rep up with those guys, I think there may have been one or two quests, but it was mainly done through these little signets that you got. So if you killed a whole bunch of Blood Elves, you get the Blood Elf signets, and then you could hand that back in to get some rep with the faction. So it would be pretty cool if these Sargerai had some sort of, opposite faction that we could kill the Sargerai for to get their stuff, to, bring it back and wrap up. Because I know it was a little bit grindy, but I enjoyed that aspect of their faction. Maybe it would be okay if there was a few daily quests, but then you could also get rep via tokens that dropped off the Sargerai enemies. I think that it was, first of all, it was cool just being able to farm up a rep, sort of independent of quests, but it was also cool the way that it actually gave people a method of making money. You could sell those Draenei signets and things like that on the auction house and make some money, which I thought was pretty cool. And then there's the other aspect, of course, that people don't like when they're artificially hemmed in a way, and I felt that strongly with the start of Miss Pandaria, when I was trying to wrap up, and my problem was, oh dear, you've done your 5 or 6 dailies for this faction, now you have to wait. It will take you 30 days to get exalted. No thank you. I actually, for the Golden Lotus, farmed Gulai Cash Keys so I could get that rep quicker. So, to me, if the Sargerai meant that we had some sort of faction that we could get Sargerai signets from, then it would be cool. And I know that the Burning Crusade and the Warlords of Draenor are totally different expansions, but they have been doing a few little callbacks to the Burning Crusade, and in terms of a gameplay system that I enjoyed from the Burning Crusade, I think it would be okay if the Sargerai could, drop signets so we could then sort of turn in for rep with the faction, because that was cool. I liked it back in the day. So, yeah, that's basically it. Sargerai, we've got Evil Draenei in the service to the Shadow Council. We now know that there is a Shadow Council, which is a little bit crazy, and I'd imagine that we'll probably get rid of Gul'dan early enough, but then who will take his place? Maybe some demon will come in. I doubt it would be Kill Jaden or any of the big chaps. Because right now, it says the Sargerai, they're followers of Sargeras, which means that Sargeras isn't just going to come down and nuke the hell out of us. Oh, actually, one other thing to talk about, is that in terms of lore, it's a little bit weird with the Burning Legion right now. So there's two different ways of thinking. First of all is, we're in an alternate dimension, therefore there's an alternate Burning Legion. Because obviously the Burning Legion inhabits space-time, which Warcraft calls the Great Dark, and if we are in another kind of offshoot of space-time, then surely there's going to be another Burning Legion. Now that does make a lot of sense, however there's also another theory which would make the lore a lot more simple to follow, and that theory is that the Great Dark, not the Great Dark, the Twisting Nether, which is the place which demons travel through, is kind of irrespective of the Great Dark, so the Twisting Nether could be used to bridge gaps in the in the Great Dark. So the current Burning Legion could go into Old Draenor, sort of. Though there's a giant problem with that, and that is that if the Burning Legion could just go back in time, why don't they just nip us off at the bud and kill us? Why do they just not go all the way back to the Well of Eternity? Massive plot holes there. Massive, massive, massive plot holes. So I'd imagine that it might be a different Burning Legion, or maybe there's some sort of crossover, but I don't know. I can't say at this stage. If they could find some sort of reason that would make sense for us to use the same Burning Legion, then it would be great. Perhaps, perhaps our Burning Legion could somehow get to Old Draenor because of us reopening the Dark Portal, or something like that. I don't know. Hey, if you have a theory about the Burning Legion and Warlords of Draenor and how they could actually get there, then totally let me know in the comments, because I am not sure. I'm not sure, and I hate time travel plot holes, so I'd nearly be happier with there just being two separate Burning Legions and the plot actually making a little bit of sense. Though, if that is the case, then you have a really big problem, in that if you're fighting this Burning Legion, like alternate dimension one, oh, I just had a brainwave. So here's an idea, right? What if the final boss was Sargeras or Kill Jaden or one of the big dudes? And how could that work? Well, if it's a separate Burning Legion, right? Then we could defeat them in this separate timeline and then go back through the portal and be done with the whole thing, right? We could just kill Sargeras. Maybe it's a different Sargeras that's weaker, or something like that. Maybe that Sargeras has a different lore. Maybe that Sargeras didn't, I don't know, get power from some Moonwell or something. I don't know. But maybe it could be a weaker one, right? And we could just do an epic last stand, win the battle, and then retreat back through the Dark Portal into our own time. That is one way they could do it. If there are two different Burning Legions, then they probably have to make it so that we would just completely deal with one of them now, and then we go back to our own world with our own Burning Legion that's perhaps more powerful. Look, hard to know, but hey, slight idea that just randomly appeared in my head. Anyway, yeah, as I said earlier, do let me know if you have a theory about this. It's pretty interesting lore. And yeah, that's it for today's speculation. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.